We will be picking back up on Chapter 13 of God Will Work With You, But Not For You, A Living Philosophy by Lau Russell. Basic cause of all disease, sickness, and evil. A living philosophy should show a way of life that will lead to health through knowledge of the underlying principles of nature. A normal man expresses the joy of living in a healthy, balanced body. He creates his body in his image of his thinking. Through his thinking, man either brings health, wealth, and happiness into being, or the opposite. He makes himself what he is by what he thinks and does. Financial, domestic, social, and other troubles do not come to man. He brings them to himself. Likewise, health troubles do not come to inflict man. He inflicts them upon himself through lack of knowledge. We must talk about the great increase in such degenerative diseases as heart failure, cancer, and kindred ailments. It is time to look at this idea, which man calls disease, in another light. Degeneration is normal in nature, but there are no diseases or sicknesses in nature. Whatever is in nature is a part of our normal processes, and all are normal and good. All nature is always normal. By normal, I mean that whatever is happening at any time or anywhere is the normal result of law working normally. There are no abnormalities in nature. An abnormality would be an effect that is not true to the pattern of its cause. That is impossible. A disease would be an illegitimate body or germ which nature did not create or sanction with equal right of normality. All forms of life are normal forms. Diseased bodies would, therefore, be impossible, for all created bodies conform with nature's laws. There are no diseases in nature, in the sense in which we understand it, nor is there contagion or malignancy or infection in relation to diseases as we understand it. Every creating body in the universe is electric. Electricity cannot be diseased. Electric bodies cannot, therefore, be diseased. We look upon a bad spot in an apple and say that it is decaying. We do not say that it is diseased. We look upon that bad spot on a human body, a cancer or tumor. We say it is diseased. We do not say it is decaying, yet the bad spot on the apple and on the man is the same. Both have other bodies which differ from their living bodies, but both are normal bodies. They are not abnormal or diseased. The whole man and apple are not dying, but part of them are. The bad spot on the apple is decaying flesh of the apple, but the cancer is a living body which is feeding on the decaying flesh of the man. The cancer itself is not a decaying body, it is a growing body. Just as decaying bodies, like the earth, become living food for bodies like yours and mine which arise from it, so is a cancer or tumor a living body. A normal living body which has been as legitimately born as your body and mine. And as our bodies are not diseased, so are cancer bodies not diseases. A fruit fly which is born out of the decay spot on the apple is a living body which has arisen from the death of the apple, just as a living cancer has arisen from a dead spot on a human body. A host of living bodies will arise from a human body when it is all dead. That is one of the ways nature takes to return its giving to their source in order that their source may re-give them. When you were born from the seed of life, the seed of death was also born in you. All your life those seeds of death wait for you to give them a chance to come to life for the purpose of living from your death. Even your mouth is filled with death-dealing microbes which are helpless to hurt you until a sufficiently depolarized condition of your body makes it possible for them to find nourishment and multiply. your polarity, your vitality, your joyous attitude of mind which multiplies the life principle in you keeps your body charged with proper balanced vibrations. These completely immunize your body from the chemistry of the death processes which await your violation of life's processes. The moment you do violate the life processes, you invite the death processes to take over in the measure of your violation. A big violation such as drinking poison will invite all of the death processes to take over. Small violations invite only a fraction of the death processes to take over. Your lungs, your heart, your liver, or some other organ, or even a small part of that organ begins to die. All diseases of every kind which cause your body to die in part or as a whole are due to the strains and tensions of trying to live. It is not easy to live a balanced life free from tensions. Our present-day complex way of living with processed foods and other circumstances which are beyond our control make it extremely difficult to balance all the conditions of our daily living. This is a further reason why knowledge of God and His processes is so vitally necessary for all mankind to live. For all mankind. To live means to continue to multiply the electric tensions which multiply life-giving energy, and that is difficult. It is very easy to die, for that return to rest is a complete relaxation of effort. But if your body does die, nature must take your body back into the ground from which it came. Nature's only process of taking dead bodies back to their creative source is by creating tens of millions of living bodies within your dead body to destroy its tissues. Not one of these microbes or worm seeds can mature until you give it a chance by working against God's law of balanced rhythmic interchange in all your transactions within your body as well as outside of it. That means that you can live a full century if you know how to live and are willing to work knowingly with God at all times by making your balance conform with His balance. However, you can hasten your own death and build a lot of aches and pains for yourself all through your life by working unknowingly against God. You manufacture your own diseases, just as you manufacture the products in your shop. Your body is the product of your decisions. You can decide to live 100 happy years by right decisions, followed by right actions, or you can kill yourself just as fast or as slowly as you wish, by making wrong decisions followed by wrong actions. Each man is what he desires to be. He is the master of his fate. He can make his own heart disease or his own cancer. He could not acquire either one of them any other way than by his own effort. God did not inflict it upon him. A germ did not give it to him. He made it himself. Sorrow, frustration, violent anger, or hate started his dying in some organ of his body or some spot in its tissue. Alcohol gradually affected his brain tissue. Nicotine started a decaying spot in his lung from which a living body grew to feed upon his body. How many living bodies are being nourished with your decaying body? How many millions of bodies are being nourished in order that they may live upon the red corpuscles of your dying body? Why should you be anemic? Why should you have abnormal blood pressure or heartbeat? Why should you have arthritis or colitis? These abnormalities were not in your seed pattern of growth to life. You invited them into your metabolism to hasten your death. Whatever you have thus unknowingly or unwisely done to your body, you can also undo. The moment you reverse your thinking from its death-making pulsations to the joyous To the joyousness of living ones, you reverse the entire chemistry of your body from over-acidity to a balanced chemistry in which acidity and alkalinity are balanced. Chemistry works two ways. These two ways are instantly reversible. One chemical action is positive. It generates life. The other is negative. It is radioactive chemistry of death. A beautiful, harmonious thought will cause the life-giving chemistry to vitalize your body, while an angry thought will immediately reverse the chemical workings of your body to the chemistry of decay and death. Your own decisions are what count, but you must have knowledge to back your decisions by right actions. Without that knowledge, you may perform right actions with right intent, but the right intent will not save you from the effect of wrong actions. If you have a bad heart, it is an abnormal heart. It is not a normal part of your body as your arm is. You created both. The same thing holds good about cancer. You created it. But you need not have done so. You created it because you did not know how to command your body to live fully in all of its parts without changing its normal pattern. You have never learned how to obey the normal life-death forces sufficiently to keep them in balance. It requires much knowledge to learn how to obey the law which demands that you equalize all of your transactions. You cannot command them until you learn to obey them. You must learn how to keep your own normal pattern instead of changing it to another normalcy, which will kill you. If your ignorance of the law caused you to change the pattern of your body so that another body grew on it or in it, the new growth is just as normal a living body as your own body. That and the following are new thoughts for you to give deep consideration to. The ignorance which caused you to build a cancer or bad heart into your body or a bankrupt condition into your business need never have appeared if you had knowledge of God's ways sufficiently to realize that He is working with you to prevent what you erroneously think of as disease. If you now have the cancer and acquire the knowledge that you did not have while you built the cancer, you can eliminate it by reversing its growth process to a death process. That power of mind to command matter must come through comprehension and not through wishful thinking, and not through asking God to do it for you without your cooperation with Him. However, remember this one basic fact, that reversals are instantaneous, but that the time element of eliminating a body growth is a part of nature's process. It took a long time to build the cancer body, and even though its toxic effect has been removed from it entirely by the reversal, the time element must be taken into consideration. That is why an emergency operation has to be performed on a body if there is not time to remove the growth mentally. The more you know about nature's mechanics and the processes used in the construction of matter, the more you can command the body which you are traveling in. The chauffeur, which knows little about his car, has very little control over its troubles, but the one who has full knowledge will not let troubles come. If they do come, he can command them to disappear, and they will obey. This is the knowledge which is now needed to give the more enlightened of the human race the power of mind to command matter. Nature's mechanics are also man's mechanics. Every mechanical thing man does has its exact counterpart in nature. A motion picture mechanism is nature's method of growth. Everyone is familiar with a motion picture projection machine and its method of projecting series of pictures so fast that the illusion of motion is created. Everyone knows that these pictures seem continuous only because they change so rapidly. The film is turned very slowly, however, you can see that there are blank spaces between each picture. In nature, those are the rest periods where the next picture of any unfolding idea changes. The man-made motion picture has but few changed pictures each second, The man-made motion picture has but few changed pictures each second, but nature's thought wave pictures change over 700 billion times a second, which is the speed of thought. The principle of the utmost importance that everyone should know, for that is the way a tree or rose or man grows. That means that the motion pictures which are being projected from the seed of you, That means that the motion pictures which are being projected from the seed of you change their patterns over 700 billion times each second. That means that you are not 30 years old as you think you are. For not one particle of you is older than 1/700 billionths of a second. Neither you, nor earth, nor sons of heaven are older than that. These changing motion picture projections of you are what make you seem to grow. Look at the small arms, legs, fingers, and fingernails of a baby. Think of the little bones in them. Then look at your own and your fast-growing hair and changing blood supply. You think of them as the same grown body bigger. But how? How did they grow bigger? They did it by dying billions of times a second to be reborn again with more of the pattern which was in the seed. They did it by projecting new patterns to add to the old ones and withdrawing them for cancellation to again give birth to more changing thought patterns. That is why your small bones become large and you became 6 feet high. That is the way a little green sprout became a mighty oak. You owe your nourishment and life to death. You could not live otherwise. The oak tree unfolded from an invisible ultramicroscopic seed. The seed is mind desire. As the tree pattern unfolded from the seed to live the life of an oak is simultaneously refolded back to die in thousands of seeds of desire to live again. The traditional concept of this operation is that an oak tree is born. It lives 100 years, sheds thousands of seeds, then it dies and its decayed body is returned to the ground. We think of a man and all other creating things that way. We never think of them as rapidly superimposed positive images which are being projected through seed negatives by the light of desire in the Creator's mind. That is the way the enlightened mind should think of them. However, and when you do think of them that way, you will better understand how the cancer pattern became as much a normal and legitimate part of your body as your eyes are normal and legitimate. For a specific example, I will describe one case which I am familiar, which demonstrates how bodies which do not normally belong to the man pattern grow in man's bodies. 6 years ago, I warned a certain friend to stop smoking. 3 years later, this man consulted a doctor who told him that he would not live a year unless operated on to remove a lung cancer. In the meantime, he was forbidden to smoke. I was not surprised, for he was a chain smoker. Within a year, he died during the operation he himself made necessary. The cause of that cancer traces back to the principle of balance which he so sorely violated. Once again, I must repeat that people violate their law either because they are ignorant of it or because they defy it. In this case, it was openly defied. He had been warned years ago of the danger, but nicotine had enslaved him by that time, and he could not stop smoking. It is interesting to know how the cancer body grew into his body. Let us analyze it step by step. 1. Every creating body forever repeats the pattern of its beginning, but adds to it constantly as desire for addition increases. After millions of years of repeated unfoldings of the various patterns thus developed from desires to live on earth, or in the air, or in the salt seas, or freshwater lakes, give to creation the types and species with which we are familiar. Each species constantly records every additional desire and every thought and action in its invisible source. These recordings take place billions of times every second. The seed pattern constantly changes because it is constantly added to. 2. All bodies must unfold in harmony with their patterns. They cannot do otherwise. Each pattern has a chemical formula which has become necessary to produce that particular type of body. That formula for man includes many such elements as iron, calcium, iodine, nitrogen, and oxygen. Any other elements than those included in the man formula and in the proportions required to continue life immediately reverses the life process to the death process in small or large measure, if those added elements are out of harmony with those required by man. If any element is taken into the body which is not harmonious to that formula, it injures the body. We call it a poison. A little poison can be thrown off by the body, but a large amount of it will kill slowly or quickly according to the dose. We call them poisons because they will kill us, but there are no poisons in nature in the sense in which we use the word. Every element is food for some other element, but poison for others. Our explosives are made up of elements which are poisonous to each other, which means that they are badly out of balance with each other. All elements are normal and good in their own harmonies, but there are many harmonies in nature, and we cannot be combined without producing chemical discords. What we think of as a poison to us is merely an element which is not in harmony with the formula which created the man body. Number 3. Nicotine is a chemical element which does not belong to the chemical formula which has been registered in the seed of man for millions of years. A spoonful of pure nicotine would kill a man immediately if taken at once. Every minute dose of it does not kill him immediately, but it begins to kill him over a long period of time. Even one cigarette starts the death process. Even one cigarette or cigar begins to change the man-body chemical formula to another formula. I do not say to an abnormal formula, for a new formula would be a new normalcy, but not the normal formula for man. Number 4. The new formula unbalances the normal one to such an extent that tensions develop and increase until they become permanent in any smoker's life. That means that never again, after nicotine has become a necessity, can any smoker fulfill the first law of nature, which is to so completely balance every transaction of his life that all tensions are cancelled at the end of every pulsation. That foreign element which does not belong to the man-body formula prevents that cancellation. Its tensions cannot be voided. Complete rest and relaxation become impossible for the one so addicted to it that he is enslaved by it. A man who is deeply worried cannot relax and sleep soundly, for he is unable to cancel out his tensions. The nicotine addict carries those tensions into his sleep, into his business, and even into his nourishment. The tensions of his cravings awaken him in the night. He must now add more nicotine to balance his new self-made formula. He reaches for a cigarette, perhaps another, before he can sleep. He is nicotine hungry. Likewise, he reaches for more cigarettes while at work in his office because he is unable to think clearly until he has satisfied the demands of the new kind of body and new kind of hunger he has created for himself. Number 5. All living bodies are simultaneously dying. The only reason that any body of any kind continues to live is because it can sufficiently balance the two generative forces which keep it alive to prevent the degenerative pair from making it die. A simple example is the balance which every living body must maintain between alkalinity and acidity. If one keeps them sufficiently in balance, they generate life for a body. If that balance is badly upset, the same too will quickly degenerate it. Life and death are equal. As long as you keep them equal, you will complete your normal cycle normally. You will be able to cancel the tensions which give you the necessary rest periods between your active ones. Whatever you do to unbalance them will shorten your normal life period in the measure in which you unbalance them and give you various sicknesses in the meantime. In other words, you can start the dying process the moment you give death a greater opportunity to destroy your body than you give to life. Number 6. When you begin to die slowly by inviting death to take your body back to the soil through ignorance of how to live, you change the chemistry of your body. You develop toxins. Toxins increase and tensions increase. Toxins and tensions are killing you, very slowly perhaps, or very quickly, but they are as surely killing you as that darkness follows day. Toxins and tensions begin to multiply within a man's body from the moment he begins to change the normal chemical formula which keeps his metabolism in a balanced condition. From that moment he begins to die by creating new life in his body which could live only upon dying parts of his body. He should normally have been able to eliminate these dying parts in nature's way. Number 7. What are toxins? Toxins are the reverse of the chemistry that made you live and grow, which now wants to make you die. Toxins are the soured milk which was sweet, the decayed spot on a living peach, the fermentation of fresh fruit juice, the scowl which was a smile, the hate which was love, a carbon dioxide of your breath which was oxygen. Toxins are the radioactive chemistry of death out of which the generoactive chemistry of life emerges. They are the death half of the life cycle. Every toxin which will kill a man will also make him live if you bury its death into the ground for it to relive as life. Carbon dioxide will kill a man if he breathes it in, but if you bury it in the ground, it will give life to plants and forests, which will take its carbon for nourishment and give off oxygen for his life's nourishment. Every living body has within it the seeds of death which are harmless in bodies when they are in balance with the vitalizing electric forces which charge a body in excess of its discharge. The moment bodies begin to decay or die in parts, which means that they discharge in excess of their charge, all of the death processes await their opportunity to fulfill their normal purpose of returning bodies to their source of birth. New types of living bodies, such as stomach ulcers, tumors, cancers, goiters, and many forms of growing bodies, are born out of such decay. These are not diseases, however. They are normal living bodies which are born from decaying bodies. All of them have one feature in common, which is that all of them live upon the parts of your body which are dying. The decaying peach gives birth to minute flies and numerous other living forms. The seed of these other life forms is a necessary part of the formula for creating a peach, as the skin of a peach is part of that formula. If one smells the dying part of a living peach, it is pleasant and wholesome odor. But the moment it dies, the more unwholesome the odor becomes, until its poisons can nauseate one. A more complex living body, such as the body of an animal, gives birth to thousands of living forms as the dying process gradually disintegrates the whole body in order to return it to the tomb of earth which was its womb. The wholesome odor of a living animal bodies quickly turns to a stench as countless living insects and flies are born from its dead body and live because of it. One such dead animal body will develop so much life forms, its multiplying toxins, that it could kill a whole village if not buried in the decay from which it came. In a short time, the dead body of a man or horse will give birth to millions of living bodies whose seed was in the man or horse seed formula, as legitimately as the pattern for the eyes was also there. Life cycles could not become completed otherwise. Number 8. Life forms are impossible where there is no decay. Each is equally necessary to the other. The greater the decay, the more abundantly life forms appear. The decay process demands a balance between dryness and wetness, just as the life process demands a balance between alkalinity and acidity. Dry deserts do not give birth to life in the abundance that wet jungles do. On a planet like Mercury, organic life forms are impossible because its surface is dry, hot mineral. Because the surface is a dry, hot mineral. There is no decay. There's no decay. There's two there's weird. There is no decay there in which wetness is balanced with dryness. Flow. On our planet, however, practically the entire land surface is sufficiently decayed to bring forth abundant life. Old mountains like our Blue Ridge and other eastern mountains have many feet of decayed surface which will give forth much life. Our western and northern lowlands have still deeper decay, while the new mountains of some parts of the west are still dry stone and will not yield organic life for long ages. Number 9. Man bodies are born into life from the death of this planet. Every life which the planet gave out from it must be equally regiven to it. Life did not come as life alone, nor did life accumulate as life alone. Life came in the death pulsations. It came in the mind-thinking electric pulsations which create all bodies. The electric thought pulsations which integrate your body are equal to the death forces which disintegrate it. They take turn, however, in one being stronger than the other. It is as though life and death are forever playing seesaw. That means that you are dying almost as fast as you are living for about 40 years. Then you die faster than you live for another 40 years. A healthy, normal body throws off its death pulsations in a normal stream. Your dog can follow them for miles, knowing that they are your body. The perfume of a rose or violet is their death, which they are likewise throwing off. And your sense of smell is keen enough to detect the presence of those dying bodies, even in the dark. The smoker who has changed his body pattern by adding nicotine to his natural formula does not throw off his normally dying parts in a normal stream, being unable to completely balance his living dying cycles so that no tensions remain from one cycle to be carried into the next one. He accumulates these unvoided tensions until the normal human odor of his dying parts no longer has the wholesomeness of a human who is living and dying normally. Those accumulating tensions have now developed strong toxins which so vitally affect the normal chemical formula of his normally dying parts that his body odor is noticeably tainted with nicotine. His body has become a menace to the life of all other humans in a very small degree, as the menace of a dying animal is in a large degree. The nicotine-infected body refolds its changed pattern back into its seed, for every thought and action of every man is constantly being recorded in his seed and affecting its pattern. At least 3 generations must pass before nature entirely eliminates that fault in human structure, during which period the hereditary taint will affect the offspring of a smoker as syphilis does in a greater degree. The introduction of the smoking habit into the human race is a great curse put upon the race by man himself. A woman who smokes during pregnancy will bear a child who will much more easily become a drug addict than one whose body formula is free from that taint. If succeeding generations of men and women smoked long enough, the seed would eventually accept it as a new formula. A body-destroying drug would gradually dull the mind sufficiently to prevent its further spiritual unfolding until nature restored its normal balance for man. That might take hundreds of generations. Nature works that way. She at first throws it off, but continued desire for a different kind of body is a command of nature to which she must yield. No smoker realizes that the accumulating toxic matter which he has invited to become a part of his or her life is decaying in thousands of parts of his or her body, and that the stench of that decay can nauseate a sensitive stomach which is allergic to nicotine. If nicotine poisoning is distributed evenly over the body, a smoker may complete his life without giving birth to cancers or tumors. But if the toxin of decay cannot be thrown off, the nicotine causes an irritation which becomes toxic, and the body cannot throw the dying parts off fast enough. Then the decay within the body and become they then decay within the body and become food for another body which grows from the dying parts of the body which are not normally eliminated. The underlying principle is the fact that decay anywhere will give birth to life in some form. If decay remains in the body anywhere, it will breed life to live upon it to destroy it. That is part of nature's process of returning bodies to their place of birth. Cancers are but one type of body which nature generates from the tension-created toxins of human bodies. There are thousands of such forms in various animals, but many which are characteristic of humans will not germinate in cattle or poultry. Many others which are characteristic of cattle and poultry will not germinate in humans. That which is true of cancer is equally true of every other so-called disease which kills part of the body before its time. Toxins develop in blood or skin or bones from tensions which could not have possibly developed if every transaction between bodybuilding and character building are always balanced. Even a common cold demonstrates that principle of unbalance. The cold is caused by a difference between the temperature condition of a person and the temperature condition of his environment, which causes a sudden condensation in parts of the body. No matter how much knowledge a man has, he cannot possibly avoid having colds or various other ailments which his environment inflicts upon him, for no man has time to measure and weigh all conditions in life Ooh, I gotta read that over again. Excuse me. Where is the period? For no man has time to measure and weigh all conditions in all of life's transactions. There we go. Conditions beyond his personal control arise, which cause him to unbalance his body strength. It is then his resistance becomes low, and an unbalanced condition in his environment affects him. All the knowledge of a sage will not immunize him from the effects of his environment. One might unavoidably be sickened by eating some poisoned sprayed fruit, or devitalized by food grown with inorganic fertilizers. Under such circumstances, environment makes man's control of his body more difficult. Although he is partly to blame for helping his environment to hurt him, knowing of these dangers, he should at least be on guard against them, and also knowing that it would be difficult for environment to give him a cold if he had not allowed his body to become tired. He should not have broken the law in that respect. Even the greatest of intellectuals who know the law constantly and knowingly violate it. It is just plain human nature to do so, for no human is perfect, nor does he quite want to be. He wants to get something done now, even if he is almost worn out with fatigue. That lays him open to many ills which could not touch him if he were vitally normal, but it tells us that we should never say to either saint or sage, "With your knowledge you should not have caught that cold." The only answer to that is that he knows why and how he has inflicted something unpleasant upon himself, and also knows how to reverse and void it. For he has the power to do so. There are many other reasons why we cause our own bodies to partially die too fast for nature to eliminate the decaying parts normally. We have described how the changed formula for a man body accumulated toxins which decayed part of a lung and thus made a new kind of life imperative. The following example tells of another way of accumulating tensions and their resultant toxins, which have the same effect of helping mankind to die faster than he normally should. This example deals with emotional tensions of temperament and mechanical tensions of body abuse, which mainly attack the stomach, head, and heart. For better comprehension of principles involved in this example, it is necessary to take a flashback into body history and interject some new thoughts which are not part of traditional thinking. 1. If you were the general of a great army or the head of a great nation with such varying temperaments as Eisenhower, Churchill, Hitler, or Stalin, would you think that you could make important decisions and perform conspicuous actions without affecting any of your officers and soldiers, or any of your heads of government departments, or your millions of people of whom you are the acting head? Do you think that such a man is a separate and independent unit of creation? Number 2. Can you not see the friendly feeling which would spread throughout the country by a Thanksgiving or Christmas message from President Eisenhower as contrasted with the hysteria of an entirely different emotion resulting from a dreaded message from a Hitler or Stalin? Do you think it would be possible for your army of soldiers to be totally unaffected if you suddenly interrupted their peaceful pursuits with an order to go to war tomorrow? Would it not cause intense emotion and hysteria in thousands of families? Number 3. Will you now vision in your imagination the millions upon millions of people it takes to make up a nation, and how long it took to build it from a few pioneers to a vast organization? 4. Now imagine the various cities, towns, villages, the roads and other means of transportation, the many conduits for water and wiring for intercommunication, the power plants, disposal and manufacturing plants needed for supplies, not to mention the chemical laboratories and other departments, all necessary for just the mechanics of making a nation workable. Then add to that the management and governmental departments which make decisions for this vast organization. Number 5. Now imagine something trivial happening anywhere, such as a fire in a small grocery store. A certain number of people are affected by that incident, but not vitally, not beyond the neighborhood. No matter how few are affected, however, a unified bond of sympathy extends from neighbors to the sufferers, and aid comes from many quarters. Number 6. Recall what happened when the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped. Do you remember how every man and woman in the nation became as one in sharing the sufferings of these parents? This tragic happening touched the hearts of the whole world. These two questions have been asked to exemplify the fact that not one unit of a city, nation, or world stands alone as a separate and independent being. What hurts or helps one hurts or helps everyone. All 6 of the questions were asked to liken a nation to a man. The building of a man body and a nation body are alike in every respect. The man body starts with a single unit and adds more and more units until it has accumulated into hundreds of millions. During all this process, God worked with man to fulfill his desires, and man worked with God to manifest God's powers. Desire built the nation. Desire also built man in the same way. The desire of one unit multiplied into the desire of many units. Over the millions of years, desire added new parts to the man body here and there and everywhere. Conduits for arteries, insulating wiring for intercommunicating chemical plants, for digestion, blood, sugar, adrenaline, and other body needs, and irrigation systems for disposal, and literally hundreds of other mechanical, electrical, chemical, and hydraulic power systems. It is impossible to detail the marvels of the human body which desire has put into it. Marvels beyond those of any man-made city or nation. In a city, an ambulance will rush to give first aid to the wounded. In the human body, a whole regiment of white corpuscles will rush to heal the slightest cut on the skin or stab in the flesh. In the city, engines put out fires when they occur, and nature quenches the fires of fevers when they occur in man. In the city, 10,000 times 10,000 wires are carrying messages all over the land, as man's body does every moment of its wakefulness. All through the nation, millions of human bodies die and decay in the earth to give birth to millions of more bodies, just as millions of leaves of trees die to fertilize the soil to give birth to other trees. The thought of this first import behind all these questions and comments is the one idea of mutual purposefulness and mutual interdependence of every unit of creation to every other unit. The thought of every second import is the effect which every unit has upon every other unit. Why did God give man white corpuscles or adrenaline glands, or elbow and knee joints with their lubricating systems, and 1,000 other inventions for his body? He did it because man needed them to manifest him. For that reason they are of vital importance to him. But in order for them to serve him, he must serve them, and keep them in good condition by supplying them with their necessities. He must especially keep them free from tensions, in order that they can retain their normalcy. Number 7. You can imagine Stalin sending out a demand to his police for wholesale purge without being accompanied with a wave of fear through the nation. It does not occur to man that a fit of violent anger will similarly affect every other one of the millions of units of his body which are serving his purposes. Every gland in his body, every chemical laboratory and power plant will immediately feel it. The tremendous tensions will develop all through his body, with some chemical effort of multiplying the toxins which are always accumulating from dying parts beyond his ability to eliminate them normally. If you have a medicine which is planned to operate normally at 1,000 revolutions per minute and you drive it for long hours at 1,200 revolutions, you are not surprised if it flies apart someday, because of the extra tensions and strains which you put on it. When your doctor tells you that you have possibly only one more year to live because of having done that same thing to your body, you wonder why heart disease should afflict you. When your machine flew to pieces, you did not think of it as a disease. You thought of it as a natural result of overload. You knew that there was law back of your violation, and that the damage to your machine was a breach of law by you, and not a disease in the machine. Number 9. Every part of a human body is purposeful. Every creating thing is purposeful. White corpuscles were added to the human body when they became necessary, just as adrenals and other glands were added to it, as fire departments were added to a city when they became necessary. These parts of the body are just chemical elements of matter. We can very truthfully say that they do not know anything. So how can calcium or carbon be affected by the mental temperament of a man body of which they are part? It is true that they do not know anything of themselves, but they are extensions of you, and they must serve you as you serve them. They are critically sensed to obey you. If you cut your finger, certain parts of your body and bloodstream immediately rush to repair it, as the fire engines of a city rush to put out a fire. Each must obey the intelligence from which it is extended. It must serve its purpose, and each is needed to serve its purpose. If you hurt one part of the body, you hurt all of it. Number 10. Your body is an electrical machine. If it will stand a normal load, if you overload it in many parts, you throw it off balance and build tensions into it. It becomes like a wheel whose shaft is off center. The faster you turn the machine, the more it vibrates. You are the intelligence which commands the machine. Whatever unbalance there may be in your electrical thinking, it is immediately transmitted to your electrical body and registers your unbalanced thinking in tensions. Where those tensions in your body are affecting it, you do not know. It may be your heart, it may be your spinal cord or your brain, or it could be your nerve system with reactions to your bloodstream, which would result in arthritis, high blood pressure, or even leukemia if the shock of vibration tensions is sufficient to reverse the general active forces which vitalize the bloodstream. No matter where the accumulating tensions create toxins in your body to assist in its death processes, the results are not diseases. They are the normal effects which either build or destroy your body, and both are good. In every instance where tensions develop toxins and an extra strain is thrown upon the heart, the bloodstream, and the processes which are continually eliminating the millions of parts of your body which are constantly dying. Number 11. Your body is a chemical composition and workable laboratory equipped with complete apparatus for transforming the chemical elements which constitute a man body into the chemical formula for the body as a whole. and the separate formula for its thousands of parts, the greatest error one can make is to assume that this vast chemical laboratory works automatically to keep your body growing normally, even if it were constantly supplied with the raw material needed for its conversion. Its entire processes will as immediately work toward accomplishing your death as they will for vitalizing you with life. Your body is not only what you think, it is also what you eat. What you think controls the chemistry which either vitalizes or devitalizes, and what you eat controls the balance between the materials needed for your body. You may not realize it, but pleasant, happy thoughts make the entire chemical laboratories of your body work toward vitalizing it with life. Its electric polarity also multiplies its potential. Conversely, angry, sullen, or cryptical thoughts upset the alkaline acid balance and make the entire chemistry of your body become devitalized. The greatest aid to balanced health is a continued state of inner joyousness. The state of God's mind is a continued ecstasy. The nearer one can approach the state, the more he will keep his body in balance and free from tensions. Let me again repeat that tensions are those parts of any excuse me. I lost myself. The state of God's mind is a continued ecstasy. The nearer one can approach that state, the more he will keep his body in balance and free from tensions. Let me again repeat that tensions are those parts of any transaction, mental or physical, which are not canceled out because of inequality in the transaction. Toxins are those residual tensions which have begun the death process in those parts of the body which have been affected by them by reversal of their polarity, which also reverses their chemistry. Number 12. Every emotion of your life immediately compels the chemistry of your body to strengthen either your life processes or your death processes. All emotions are expressed in thought cycles. Electric thought cycles must be completed by being voided. Unbalanced thought cycles destroy the body in measure of their unbalance. Happiness and a joyous disposition are impossible where emotional disturbances unbalance the nerve system and body metabolism. These produce food for frustrations and worries. The chemistry of digestion is thrown out of balance, and decay of dying parts of the stomach supplies nutrition for another form of life, which we know as stomach ulcers. If the residual toxins find a better foothold in the nervous system, brain trouble and insanity are resultant effects. Institutions for the insane are being filled up with people who have inflicted these disorders upon themselves. Again, I repeat, however, that not one of these effects are diseases. They are merely the effects which people create in themselves because they have not yet learned how to live balanced emotional lives. It's a long one, isn't it? Almost there. Number 13. There has been a great increase in degenerative diseases due to food processing and adulteration and to improper fertilization. These effects, however, are not diseases. They are imperfect bodies which become that way through lack of the proper materials which the chemical laboratories needed to build a man body according to formula. One might as consistently say that a typewriter has a degenerative disease if the manufacturer did not have sufficient carbon, tungsten, or cobalt to harden his iron, or had to use lead instead of iron. When a baby has rickets because it was not given sufficient calcium to make it possible for its laboratories to manufacture bone, or a woman has goiter from drinking glacier water which was deficient in iodine, or a sailor has scurvy because of eating too little green vegetables and too much salt meat, it cannot be said that these are diseases. They are but the effects of tensions which make cancelled electric cycles impossible. Tensions thus developed form toxins which multiply the death processes instead of the life processes. Number 14. An entire group of diseases are those called infectious or malignant. Again, I say, these are not diseases. They are perfectly normal processes. They are purposeful and necessary processes, and that which is normal cannot properly be called a disease. If an arrow pierced your body, it would be called a normal effect, even though it killed you. If a mosquito punctured your skin and left another form of life in the puncture, multiplying into millions which fed upon the dying parts of your body, that would be just as normal as effect as though a swarm of locusts descended upon your fields and found nourishment from your trees. If you fed enough quinine to these small bodies, you would decimate them, just as you would decimate the locusts with sprays and save your fields. If, however, your body balance was normal, your generative ability to throw off your dying parts might be more than sufficient to immunize your body from the power of any infection or malignancy to affect it. All bodies which we call infectious are bodies, or germs if you like, which live on dead and decaying flesh. The Creator provided for the return of bodies to their source with as much thought as He provided for their emergence. The return toward another life is just the opposite in direction and in electrical and chemical effects, but both are normal and equally necessary. In the chemistry of life, every living thing you eat is chemically in rhythm with your body. Electrically, your body is being polarized or charged, as a battery is charged. When the food you eat has been dead long enough to decompose, its chemistry multiplies its toxic effects. The same things which nourish you today could kill you if you ate them next week. It is called a poison if it enters your stomach, but if it enters your tissues, it is called an infection. A happy dog could bite you without infecting you, but a mad dog could infect you if he bit you, for the chemistry of his whole body immediately reverses at such a time, just as the entire chemistry of your own body reverses if you become violently angry with hate. You also could infect another body by biting it at the same time, but you most certainly infect yourself by releasing the death principle in full force to return your body to earth. It may not kill you, but it could. It could give you convulsions resulting from your own poisons, or it could find some weak part of your body and form a cancer or tumor there. A smallpox or yellow fever germ is a living body, whose chemistry is in reverse to yours. If either of them enters your bloodstream, it will find nourishment from your living flesh, just as cancer finds nourishment from your dying flesh. If, however, you let those living germs die, you can control the process by inoculating some other body with them. Their dead bodies will have reversed their chemistry to one which is harmonious with your living chemistry. If you then inoculate or vaccinate yourself with these reversed germs, they will destroy any living germs of the same kind which enters your body. Summary. In all the universe, there is only life which has arisen from death to become life, and death which has arisen to become life to become death. That is all there is. There is nothing more. That which God gives to us we call life. That which He gives to us we must re-give equally. We give our lives to Him. Why call it death or decay or disease or malignancy? There is nothing but eternal life in this universe, and every action and reaction of motion creates life. That which confuses the senses in this respect is the fact that life is expressed in two directions simultaneously. Out of every particle of decomposing flesh, life constantly arises in other forms, and out of every living particle of flesh, death, decay, and decomposition are arising in other forms. The universe is eternal, it is immortal, it cannot die, it can but repeat. There is naught but life in this living universe. Just as the clock pendulum swings two ways to create time, so does the heartbeat of the cosmic clock swing two ways to create life at each of its two ways. Life gives birth to death, and death gives birth to life, and each is the womb and tomb of the other. As above, so below. Likewise, there is naught but love in this universe of love, which God is. The pendulum of love swings two ways in its interchange of love, but both express love and both give the happiness which love is. When the pendulum of interchange is equal in both ways of its swinging, when man unbalances the interchange between the two and hurts himself in so doing, he believes that there is evil in the world to hurt him, and that there is good to make him happy. Disease and evil are one. They are the creations of man, for they do not exist in nature. And that will be it for today.